Scott, hi. Could you please introduce yourself and give us some information about you, your relationship with AI, and particularly your involvements with AI?
Sure. Me and AI have been in a relationship for about a year now. Um, it's pretty fun, I think. So I really started out in filmmaking, went to college for video production, film production. Since then, really been studying storytelling, acting, just writing a lot of scripts and things like that. Got into cinematography because I wanted to shoot things myself and have them look somewhat decent. And then I was in this Discord channel that was like something called Stable Diffusion. I didn't really know what it was, and then it got turned into the official Stable Diffusion beta testing, and you could just type in something and then see it in front of you, and it was pretty insane. And you can start making all this art and things that look like paintings just really quickly of like random things you wanted to see. And I started using film centered sort of keywords like film still, um, DVD screenshot, and then it would spit out these like things that look like renderings. They look like incredibly realistic, really interesting, strange things that look like crazy creatures, but that look like it was like shot on film. It was just insane, and just this crazy level of creativity that you were just thinking of something from the depths of your imagination and seeing it in front of you instantly and just building off that. And I was if you go for a run and you use up a good amount of your energy and you're pretty beat by the end of it, I was getting that, but creatively, where as an artist I have so many ideas of things I want to do, things I want to put on screen, stories I want to explore, music I want to hear, right, and create, and that you just kind of want to get to work and get it out and put it out in the world. But
Mhm.
using AI, it was like I could do that, but incredibly quickly, and I could like be discovering art along with like co-creating art because it's not like I'm sitting there modeling a 3D character myself, but I'm like thinking of an idea. I'm like, oh, this might be cool, and putting it in and seeing it. So I was just creatively exhausted by the end of it, which I've never felt before.
Mhm.
And it was pretty crazy. So I was like, this could be used to, I think, take like next steps in like a human's ability to be creative.
Mhm. And how frequently do you use AI in your creative routine now?
Um, I mean, all the time, every day, really. Just on a base level, I'll
Could
if
you
I'm in
maybe,
a sorry.
yeah, could you maybe tell me more about your experiences and insights that you gain from collaborating with AI?
Yeah. Yeah, I use AI all the time, really, just to bounce things off from too. Like if I have like a visual, if I need to be writing in a certain environment, that's like some cold industrial environment, I'll hop into Midjourney and I'll generate images that'll kind of get my juices flowing and kind of get me into a space. If I'm in a script, I'll literally like if I write an action description and I think it's worded just awkwardly, like
Mhm.
I don't know how to describe this visual aspect, I'll pop it into Chat GPT and I'll just kind of be like, what are some better ways to word this? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Kind of like a better version of a thesaurus or something like that.
What about the future? Like, how do you believe AI technology will impact filmmakers' creative freedom?
I think that, well, to me, AI is just like a really powerful extension of yourself. It's a really powerful tool.
Mhm.
Like I feel like our actual hands are just tools, that we use. And using AI, it's like putting a glove on and extending your reach farther
Mhm.
than what it could have been. So I think as a filmmaker, if you're shooting on set and you have this idea, maybe you can visualize it super quickly.
Mhm.
Maybe it's in your camera and you can look at color grading options. I feel like there's so much you can do. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, definitely. But with the promise AI holds, there are often concerns as well. Like, what elements of AI in the creative realm do you find the most daunting? And I'd like to hear about any apprehensions you might have.
Well, there's definitely a good discourse going on right now about the value that of work that people have and not devaluing work created by humans, which I think is a great question and a great discussion. Um, because that's a good question. Like, what is the value we do, right? And is it the work, the effort we put in, the time we put in, the ideas we put in? Because I think AI is really pretty solid at supporting our ideas,
Mhm.
and but it seems to be undercutting a lot of time and work. And I think it's going to take some, you know, rocky periods, but then some um, seemingly outlandish economic models to like support people, which I think baseline, I think people should be supported whether we think they are pro- providing their work value anyway. I don't think people have to bleed for to live.
Mhm.
Um, and also another thing is atrophy. Um, I think one of the dangers is because it's so powerful. If I'm using ChatGPT and I'm asking it questions, I'm kind of using it as a more advanced Google, so to speak, right? Where it knows what I mean most of the time. It's like I don't want to, I don't want to not like invest in myself and try to actually learn things myself to where if I'm standing out in a desert and we lose power, I don't know how to do anything because I'm used to pawning every critical thinking task on ChatGPT, right? Like I still want to be developing myself to someone that can solve problems and not offloading it so much.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there's a potential downside, like particularly in terms of artistic quality?
Yeah, yeah, just because things can get I think homogenized might be the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It, like there's a vast majority of something that comes out of a model will look very similar or the same. And it doesn't, that's not a necessity. Like you can get stuff that falls outside of those railings, but just the fact that, the majority of what comes out of it does follow in a certain style, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be very limiting because if if you think that all your information, you know, just that you comes through Facebook, you're limiting yourself of like a whole bunch of interesting things out in the world or even on the internet. I think like I look through Instagram and I look at uh, like painters or illustrators that have really honed their own style,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so true to them, and it's such an amazing experience. Like walking through a gallery and seeing that in front of you, and seeing someone's very pointed, particular perspective through their art is a beautiful thing. And I feel like if newer waves of artists are like creating with a guidance that's maybe too much, then you might start to lose some of that aspect, which I wouldn't, really want.
Mm-hmm. Were there any specific ethical issues or concerns that you encountered in your own artistic work involving AI?
Um, I guess like if you if you ask ChatGPT to like make a poem or make song lyrics, it is creating it from scratch, but it may have elements. It's very similar to us because it's like it may have elements that have arisen somewhere. Like if I make a melody, is like, did I write that, or am I just regurgitating some song that was stuck in my head 3 days ago and I don't know it? So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a sort of a weird area there where we'd always want to be mindful that of any sort of blind spots in reuse that may arise, I think.
Mm-hmm. And for filmmakers who aspire to incorporate AI into their projects, what wisdom would you offer to them?
I would say um, I would say there's so many ways to be inspired by it. I think 'cause, like that's to me that's a great energy, right? Is when you're inspired.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when work is not inspired. When you watch something and you just feel that they're just sort of grudging along or they did the project because of so and so reasons. But you can also feel when a project is really close to someone and it really means something to them. And I feel like, with the being an incredibly visual medium that film is, we experience it visually and auditorily, if that's a word. Um, there's so much opportunity to get inspired through AI because I would literally just put very simple prompts in, like Octane render film still. Octane render is like a 3D rendering term, and when you say film still, it kind of aligns it to a certain composition, and you do it in 16:9 or whatever aspect ratio you want. And I would get ideas of compositions or ways to block actors or just creature sort of designs and color palettes, all this. And I feel like there's so much to inspiration to find, but you do have to push a little bit further. You have to dig deep into these areas and just find something interesting. I think there's a lot of inspiring things about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously some detrimental things as well. But if you do want to, if you are interested in using it, like there's a lot of stuff there that will kind of get your juices flowing. That's really when it's used best is when you can sort of mitigate those times in your day when you're like, like this story point is annoying me. I don't want to mess with it, or
Mm-hmm.
this shot is, I don't know how I feel about it. Just having something where you can like flip over here and be like, change it up a little bit and then come back. And I think that's always helpful. You always just want that creative flow to be going. I'd say.
Mm-hmm. We already actually touched upon on the creativity, but I'd like to hear more about like how AI truly amplifies creativity in your work. Could you maybe give me some like examples?
Totally. Yeah. This was so much fun. Uh, Here's a really cool example. I wrote a short film, and then I had a particular setting, like in the middle of it, that the majority of it takes place, and it was very like sort of a fancy foyer of a fancy mansion sort of feeling setting. And when we were scouting locations, that was not really feasible because the way I wrote it, it would have to be built like in a studio, with uh, walls and stuff. And when we were searching around, we like we found some other options that I was not sure about, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I went into Midjourney, which is an AI. I'm not familiar. It's and I used AI. So what I did is like, okay, I was like, here's this location, but then I was like, but with this design element. Like I was
Mhm.
adding design elements to it because I was like, well, if this is the location we're going to have to use, we're going to have to pivot, right, from what's written. How can we pop it out a little bit, less of cliche and more of like our own sort of interpretation within our work, so that it kind of still sets it apart a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and then and then from the AI, I was getting generations that were like, okay, here's your new setting, and here's this cool new visual approach you can do with production design. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, that's going to be awesome. Let's go that. So then we went down that road, and 2 was what we shot, and it turned out really sweet. So we end up, yeah. So instead of a foyer, we end up shooting in a warehouse, like a big sort of factory warehouse sort of room. And I didn't want like a sort of a cliche, kidnapped victim in a warehouse setting. But
Mhm.
from an AI, there was these draperies and cloths hung on the walls. And if you watch the short, they're on the walls. And it just made visualizing that so clear. And I could show people and be like, this is what I'm thinking. And yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
These were the questions actually, and thank you so much. It was really great to hear about your insights and get to know your artistic work.
Yeah, no problem.